Let's get started. Welcome to November 2nd, Tuesday's 2 p.m. Investing Hack Live. And we are going to cover the second phase of knowing your market, which is how to get deal flow and how to take the proper steps to get opportunities for investing in real estate coming towards you. And it's an actually really good synopsis. And it's not as hard as a lot of people think. The biggest issue in my market right now is there are very few deals because the inventory is so low, and it's probably happening in your market as well. So this information is very pertinent if you're trying to get deals to flow in your life. So from the standpoint of where, even though there's a very short, low inventory of deals on our marketplace, I still have deals called in. I had one called in this last week from California in my local market. And so there is actually always deals happening. The phrase that I brought up in the last meeting was the deal of a lifetime happens every single day. It has to do with whether you're in preparation to pull the trigger on that deal. It is astounding how many people do not understand this. They're always talking about what they could have done, what they should have done, what they're going to do, instead of getting ready to actually pull the trigger. It's a very important thing to get ready. And then the other point that goes along with the deal of lifetime comes every day is I have never bought a house that I didn't first write an offer on. So if you're not putting offers into the marketplace, there is no way you can ever get a deal under play. Those are the tips from the last meeting. We're going to kind of expand on that this time. Before we do, I need to go over the little disclosure from our legal, and that says real estate investment results. Its officers or members provide no legal or professional advice. You should always consult a licensed professional, a professional appraiser, real estate agent, or financial advisor when making any decision regarding the purchase and sale in real estate. The information obtained from REIR.co, real estate investment results, and or its members is intended solely for general guidance and exchanging, buying, or investing in real estate, and does not constitute legal, financial, tax, appraisal, accounting, or other professional advice. Because real estate contracts, closing procedures, disclosures are guided by state law, always consult a local professional whenever engaging in real estate transactions. And now we got the attorneys happy. So let's go dive right into this information because it's very valuable from the standpoint of if you're serious about getting a real estate deal in your life. And it simply comes down to how to get lead flow. The number one thing that you need to do to get lead flow is talk to people in general. So there are a lot of rules in marketing. The number one detail as far as how to get a deal done is there's a rule that goes 1,000, 100, 10, 1. For every one deal purchased, you're going to need to make 10 offers, and you're going to have to see 100 what we call suspects or prospects, and then you have 1,000 leads that are required to get there. Now that's just a general rule of thumb. Once you get really good at doing what we're going to talk about today, many times those numbers get a lot better, and we're going to talk about a couple of different pieces of marketing you can use that are super valuable as well. Right now there is less deals in the marketplace, but there's still deals and they still come. Like I said earlier, that I just got a call. A guy from California is a wholesaler. He actually does about 10 deals in 10 states a week. Wholesalers buy basically with a contract. And most of the time they don't even take possession. They can take possession of the deal if they need to, but they often just resell the deal to a guy that fixes and flips. So that guy called me because he had a lead come in my market, and that lead is my state is a state he does not work in. And generally wholesalers want to know all the laws and all the rules for every market they're in. He's in 10 states, which is to do wholesaling right now because there's so few deals. You have to be in multiple states. And so he just didn't work in my state. He was bringing me the lead. We actually had a pretty good conversation. We're following up with each other, even though that deal did not work because it was on too short of a string, meaning it was going to sale today, actually. And I got a call on it last Thursday. So number one is getting deal flow, following the rules of marketing. You're going to have more deals coming at you than you'll ever get done. to get a deal done. The next is, and this is what I started doing right away, is look at your market and decide where you want to be, and then simply drive neighborhoods. Now, here's the thing about driving neighborhoods. When you drive into a neighborhood, especially if it's kind of a closed off neighborhood, meaning it's a cul-de-sac, you will often find that the neighbors know who is in that neighborhood. And if you're an outsider, they will spot you. And the best example I can give about this is a lot of times I would be driving around my pickup in the wintertime. And when I would see a property that was either foreclosed or was had a problem, and I would drive around the whole property once. And if I missed something on the front, I'd be looking at the garage and not get out of my truck yet. And I would look at the garage and I'd be like, oh, I want to see the front again. So I drive around the front, and I'd be at the front. I want to look at the garage again. So I drive around, and on the second time, if someone was walking on the street, you circle the property, they kind of give you an evil eye, like, what are you doing? If you do it 3 or 4 times, then they seriously look like they're about to call the police on you because you look like you're stalking a neighborhood. So in those scenarios, it's a marvelous thing, human nature, because you are a big suspect that looks like you're about to commit a crime. So what I would do is I would just pull the truck over, and I would immediately step out and start talking to that dog walker. And you would be shocked how you go from a suspect, and all I'd say is, hey, I'm an investor. I'm looking at that house. It seems like it's got it needs to be bought or it needs to be rehabbed. And they would immediately tell you not only what was going on with the house, they would tell you what was going on with the family. Many times it was like a friend, their kids' friends lived there, and there was a divorce, and it was a really sad story. They tell you the entire story. So you went from, oh, you're about to get the cops called on you, to, oh, I'm going to give you all the information. Now, why does that human nature? Well, because if that house is a problem in their marketplace, then immediately it starts to affect their own tax base or their own resale value. So if they want their property value to stay high, and there's a dilapidated house next door, it immediately starts to affect the value of their property. And so they want someone to come in and fix that problem, and they're not going to be able to do it. So a real estate investor is the best opportunity, and they literally will give you all the information you need. Now, that's just one way of getting deals. When you're looking at those deals, I'll tell you a couple of tips on what you should be looking for. In the wintertime, if there's snow not being shoveled, then it's a problem, because usually the city gets out and starts fining whoever doesn't shovel the snow within 24 to 48 hours. So if it's 7 days of snow on the ground, the city is probably fining them, but there's nobody to fine, so the fines don't go anywhere. So that's how you know that that's a problem property. The other one would be damage to the property. In the summertime, long grass. So when you start driving neighborhoods and start looking for long grass or unshoveled snow, you immediately are like, oh, that's a problem. And then all of a sudden your eye will start catching. You'll see problems. Roofs that look like they're leaking, but maybe aren't leaking, but they're crumbling off. That's another one. Those, whenever you see like broken fences, garbage laying in yards, yards totally overgrown, these things are usually the signs that house needs to be rehabbed. Now you'll find properties like this that will stay in those situations for years. So they don't necessarily mean that you're gonna, just because you find a problem property means you're gonna get bought. But like I said, if you find 100 of them and you walk through 10 of them, you're likely to get one bought. Now the next step would be to just hire a bird dog. Bird dogs are mailmen, landscapers, anybody who is by in the neighborhood consistently week to week that either has a relationship with the clients or with the homeowners in that market, or are just there all the time, and you pay them a finder's fee to submit deals. And the last time I had a bird dog, I think we were paying $10 to $20 for a lead. And then if that lead popped, I would give them $500. Many times you're going to get a lot of wasted leads on this, but you'll at least have people in the marketplace willing to actually write down and really doing what that driving the neighborhood. They're doing that for you. So it's very easy, especially if like a mailman, if you talk to a mailman, say, I'm looking for deals in this marketplace. If you know of anybody on the route that the house is vacant and they know all the vacant houses because they walk by them every day, send me a text and I'll follow up with it. I'll pay you $10 for just the lead, extra cash, and then I pay $500 when I buy the house. that is using bird dogs. Like I said, landscapers, mailmen, anybody that's kind of going by the house regularly to take care of other houses, they'll still know the neighborhoods. The next thing to do is to start telling everybody you're looking for a deal. You will be shocked at how deals come into your life when you start paying attention. I had a call and went and looked at a house for a friend, and then actually one of my investors, he's looking at a house. On Saturday, I drove over and looked at it for him. The house was damaged and real big disrepair, about $60,000 in rehab. The owner was his driver for he's Amish, so he has a driver. It's kind of funny. And he wanted to sell it to him, and then he wanted to actually help with rehab. And the reason that it was in such bad repair is because the owner bought it, lived in it, bought another house, moved to it, let a relative live in the house, and the relative did not pay any bills for several years. So he was fine, and then damaged it completely. I mean, he let the eaves fill up. The basement was semi-finished. It had drywall down there, and he's got mold on 4 feet of the drywall because they didn't clean the eaves. The water ran in the basement and wrecked the drywall. So this guy is desperately trying to get rid of this house because he hasn't had any money on it in a long time. And he's the driver of the guy that's going to buy it. So it's right down, you're at arm's length from deals all the time. And by the way, family living in somebody else's house for free is one of the easiest and fastest ways to buy a house. I have heard horror stories. I've heard of people that they didn't even kick the family out because they couldn't bring themselves to do it. They just sold the house and let the investor come in and evict the family. So it is marvelous at like how family can really cause problems to people where they're just like, I'd rather be rid of the house in a poor condition than deal with actually dealing with my family. So telling everybody you're in the business and looking for a deal, you'll have people that will actually find deals for you. Now, let's talk about, because we're gonna go down a couple other ways to find deals, but I want to talk about the distressed property and what the context of what you can look for besides just a roof problem or long grass. And that is, there's about 4 basic areas that properties are distressed in: foreclosure or tax deed. You've heard, I'm sure you see these ads that guys are talking about buying tax deed property. So that means there's an economic problem on the property. These houses can be in beautiful condition. Many times they're still in great condition, and there's some of the best opportunities to turn a deal fast is a financial problem. And that's what that guy that called me last week was about. The contact was $27,000 upside down. 3 years later, he's trying to save his house. And the saddest part about the story is what his mortgage payment was. He's getting 2 to 3 times the value from that mortgage payment is going to get rent. When he goes to rent, he's going to pay the same as he's paying for his mortgage and get like a 2-bedroom versus having a 3 or 4 bedroom house. So maybe even only a 1-bedroom. So the foreclosure context is one of the problems. The next is deceased or heir owned. These are some of the best value props from the standpoint of if the heir is an out-of-state heir. So you can look for out-of-town owners. There's lists you can buy with this stuff, with these on them. The out-of-town owner generally wants that thing turned to cash as fast as possible. And if they inherited it, they don't know the value or they're not concerned with the value. So they want cash. So if you're really in position to pull the trigger, heir owned or deceased based properties, meaning someone has died, the house is vacant and it's just sitting there and nobody knows what to do with it. On this, there are actually attorneys that help people with heir owned issues. And you can reach out to those attorneys and say, hey, I'm an investor looking for deals. Go ahead and let me know if you have any coming, and you can find deals just by contacting those attorneys. The next one is divorce. Many times in a divorce situation, the house has to be liquidated, even though one party may want to keep it. In these situations, you need to get both people to sign off on the property if they're both on the title. So they're a little stickier, but if you're bringing them cash and they're getting to go their separate way, many times they both will be ready to go to sell it. So finding divorce problem properties is another way to find problem properties. The last one I have is a Liz Pendant's list, which is similar to foreclosure. That is the first notice that the banks give when the property is beyond 60 days or 90 days late. So that list can be found at your county. They file list pendants. It's basically a pre-foreclosure list is what they call it. And those deals, again, the people, a lot of times they'll be in denial that they're actually going to lose the house, but the ones that, so you can send them some mail. And when it comes time, they wake up, like the guy that I talked about this last week, he was 3 years late to wake up, but he was so interested in trying to save his deal. And it was just, he shouldn't have waited 3 years. He could have actually saved that deal if he would have started 6-8 months into the deal. Now, those are the main problems with the properties. And then I guess there was one that we started out with, which was just a damaged property to begin with. It means somebody has not been able to afford to take care of the property. In that damaged property window, there's a lot of landlords that are burnt. I had a landlord that called me yesterday, and he's a realtor and a landlord, and he called me because I evicted someone like 5 or 6 years ago, and he was going through an eviction for the same person, wanted to talk to me about that. And he said on the call, had I met this person when I was young, I'd have probably gotten out of real estate immediately, because it was just so vitriolic dealing with this person in eviction. I said, yes. I go, that's why when we put anybody in as a landlord, we actually do not put somebody in with an eviction anymore, unless it's 10 years ago and they have a really good reason and their life is totally changed. If someone has a recent eviction, they're going to do it again. So you do not put eviction people into your properties. Now, the next step from dealing with where to find these deals is to start building your team and network. And I already talked about this a little bit. Attorneys are good to talk to. Deceased, divorced, realtors themselves. A lot of realtors will find these properties and they're new in the business, so they don't know what to do with it. And if you're, especially if you can reach out to new realtors, say, hey, I'm in the business, I buy property. If you find a junker, call me. You get 15 or 20 people that are realtors that are new, that are hungry, trying in your market, trying to find deals. They find a deal, you close for them, they'll be they'll find more deals for you. My first realtor found me multiple projects, and my second realtor that found me projects, I think I bought 15 or 20 different houses from her. So having a good network of realtors, attorneys, and even contractors, if they know you're in the business and then they can get a job from you after you buy the property, fix it, they'll bring you more deals as well. The other way to go at it is with these lists that you can buy or find, and we actually hand-built lists as well, so you can just go on across. My market's across Wisconsin, so you go on the cross county records, and when you find like people, look for people that have an heir-own situation or a foreclosure situation, and then you can direct mail them. And there's a unique piece that we don't use it too much right now because of how few deals there are, but it is one of the best marketing pieces for finding projects ever, and that is, it's called the Yellow Letter. It's basically a sheet of legal paper that is written with red ink, and you write on there. As a matter of fact, if you reach out to me later on my cell phone, should be a text 608-306-1199. I can give you a copy of this. It says, "Hi, my name is Joshua. My wife and I would like to buy your house at," and then you put the address of the house. Please feel free to contact me, and then just say thanks. And then that letter gets folded and put into a card-based envelope, and then you put a live stamp on it and fill it out in red ink. And that piece pulled for me up to 32%. So for every 100 mailers I mailed, I would get 32 calls. Now the warning shot on that one is a lot of those calls will be what we call screamers. I've actually had the police called on that letter because they think you can buy the house without them knowing it, and we're very worried because it is such a moving piece. But some of those screamers are also looking to sell a house. So it's a very good piece to use. The next best piece that I prefer is actually what I call the Yellow Postcard. So if you've seen these signs that people put out, we buy houses, I buy houses. I made a postcard that looked very similar to that. And I'm going to go over the sign context as well, because a lot of people use those signs and they work. That's why you see them. But make a postcard very similar to that sign, and then set it up to just go out to some of these lists. and you can set it up. We use a product called Click to Mail, CLICK, click the number 2 mail.com. So very easy, cheap way to send postcards. If you make this yellow postcard that just says we buy houses or I buy houses, and you put all you got to put is current resident, even though you'll know that they're, if you use these lists that we're talking about, foreclosure, deceased, divorce, and damaged property, you know that there's a problem with the property, but don't put their name on the postcard, just put current resident, because they're just getting a piece of junk mail that says we buy houses, I buy houses. When you actually send it that way and put it on what I call a drip mailer, which you can send it to them once a month, I think the cost of that postcard is like 62 cents. So for 62 bucks, you can send 100 of them out a month. And you can send 8 to 10, 12 months at a time at that with that website, Click to Mail, which makes it easy to like set it and forget it. And then you'll have lead flow coming in off that postcard over time. Because what happens is, what you need is when the person that decides it's time to sell the house, you need to show up in their mailbox right then. I actually send those postcards out and occasionally get calls from people that say, "Are you the guy that has the signs too?" And I don't put the signs on. I have used signs before, but the problem with the signs is the sign enforcement is what comes in most cities, and they'll come after you if you have those signs out after so many days. I think in my city you can only have a sign out for like 3 days. And so what most people are doing to use those signs is, it's a trick of the business, and that is they'll put them out on Friday at 5 and have them picked up on Sunday at 5. They usually hire a lawn care guy, a landscape guy, or somebody. They pay them like $1 a sign to put them out, and then they have to have someone verify. And you'll if you see these on a weekend, you'll see them stacked like 20 signs on a corner, and they do that on purpose to kind of grab your attention. And occasionally you'll just see a sign sit in the middle of nowhere. But if you leave signs out through the week, code enforcement will call you, they will fine you, and it will become very expensive. So that's one of the reasons I don't like using the signs, is it's just too much of a hassle for what I was trying to accomplish. But it is, the reason you see them out there is because they do work. That yellow sign, we buy houses, is very generic looking. When someone is ready to pull the trigger, they legitimately are ready and they will call that sign. That's why I like using the postcard version of it, is because you're sending it to people you know have a problem, and you continually send it to them for a couple months, and you will find out that when it comes time to actually make the decision to sell, they'll call you because you're the one that's closest. The last section I would use the same context in is a Facebook or social media page. You can make a page that says the same thing as that's on the sign, and then run ads against it in that marketplace and get these leads as well. Craigslist used to be a pretty valuable tool, but Craigslist has become so oversaturated and so full of spam, it's hard to keep your ads up, and you get a lot of junk replies, although I know people that still use it. There's other ways to do it, local newspaper ads, any place that you can put something that people that are in these situations can actually see your number. Like I said, talking to people that deal with them, you could actually even do it with funeral home people that take care of funerals. If there's just, they wouldn't pitch for you, but they would just, if someone has a house to sell and they know about it, they can say, "Hey, I know a guy in the business that'll buy the house." So getting that lead flow is very important. And remember that the deal of lifetime comes by every single day. Are you ready to actually execute on the deal? And then I have never bought a property that I did not make an offer on. When I first got in the business, I didn't have a lot of experience other than I was following certain rules that we talked about last week, the mail formula. And I was following that, and it was a hot market like we are in right now. So I was really struggling to actually get a deal, but I just kept going forward, kept driving neighborhoods, kept doing all the things that we talked about in this video, and I literally got deals. It took me a while, but I got them. And right now, because of how many deals I do, I naturally will land without even trying 1 to 2 different contacts a week, if not a month, if not a week. Like the one I talked about earlier about the guy from California, He literally was digging for me online, found one of my websites, and he said he had called 10 other guys like me, and I was the one that answered the phone. And so that context of that, and we talked about that last week, that follow-up context matters as well. If you know somebody needs to sell a house, you automatically following up in some way, whether it's a postcard, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a text, is one of the easiest ways to get a deal, because they have a problem and they need to sell. Even if it's, let's say you came across an heir-owned property and the heir-owned, they think it's worth way more than what it's worth. It needs work, and they're looking to really cash in, and you can't buy it because it doesn't meet your numbers. Even following up on them later on, even if it's like every 2 weeks, or sending them a postcard, sending them a thank you card, doing some type of follow-up it'll shock you how quickly, when it comes time to really wanting to get the project done, get it sold, getting their money out, they'll call you and sell you the property. So knowing those numbers, like we talked about last week, matters. That follow-up can be a lot of different things. Like I said, it can be a text, it can be a voicemail, it can be a postcard, it can be a letter. Now we have retarget Facebook marketing. You can retarget. So if somebody is came into your page, you can add them to a retargeting list and retarget. There's a lot of tips and tricks to doing it, but taking each one of these steps and you consistently doing it over time, deals will naturally come into your life. Now, remember that you have to write those offers to get something under contract. So next week, we're going to be covering the Roth IRA next week. This coming Thursday at 2 o'clock, we're going to be doing Roth IRA and tax-free retirement. Really appreciate you guys coming on today. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me at 608-306-1199. If you're looking at getting money into an investment opportunity, we have a couple of deals left that we're funding this year. We pay a baseline of 5 points and 7%. What that means is on a $500,000 investment for a new build, that front end, so you send 500 to the closing table, it immediately becomes 525,000, and then you earn 7% a year after that. The reason we do it this way is because we can sometimes turn your money twice a year, and instead of earning 5 plus 7, you end up earning 5 plus 5 plus 7. So you end up earning 7% return as that cash investor. And our goal as people that actually do the business is to make it so that our capital investors, our private lenders, they make a good rate of return, and then they're rewarded for continued deals with us. That's why we do it. In reality, even that 5 plus 7 doesn't represent 12%, because you're gaining 7% on the 5 points. So it ends up being 12.35% in the year, which is a much higher return than most people are getting in CDs and money market accounts. And we pay really good money for our money. We do have a couple of opportunities left. You can reach out to me at 608-306-1199. That is my live cell phone. You're welcome to call me at any time. I used to be worried about giving that out, but you'd be shocked at how many times I give it out, and very few people, unless they're serious, call. So I do get a lot of calls, but I give it way more often. That thing we talked about at the beginning, 1,000, 100, 10, 1, I've given it out thousands and thousands of times. It is my live cell phone. Reach out to me via text or call with any questions. With that, thanks for joining us today. We will see you at Tuesday can't get my dates right. Thursday at 2 p.m. and we're talking about Roth IRAs and tax-free retirements. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Thanks for joining us.